allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, yes, roll call, please.
Mayor.
Here.
Benefield.
Here.
Brooks.
Here.
Malone. Here. Gould.
Here.
Hart. Yes. Ogalla. Here. Parker. Here. Haley Berry. Here. Chimanello. Here. Weigel.
Here.
Winfrey. Here. And Hughes. 04.
Okay. There is no minutes to approve. Under old business, replacement hires for pre-posting for supervisor assessments. There are none. Go ahead, Lynn.
These are 3 entry-level positions. 2 of them are resignations. 1 of them is a retirement. The resignations, 1 has been gone since December. 1 is due to leave in the end of February, and the retirement is April 1st. So these are positions that obviously we need on staff for our exemption efforts. Their replacements, we're not sure at this point whether we're going to have enough people as it is. So these are really, we need, these are necessary.
So these positions are currently filled, but they're going to be.
2 of them are. 1 of them is unfilled, but we'd like to, since they're all entry level, we'd like to
Okay, well,
post.
let me ask about the unfilled. Was it budgeted for?
Yes,
So it's already in the, so all these positions
They are.
have been budgeted.
and they are, the money is in my budget for all 3 of these.
Okay, any discussion? Can a motion to do the pre-post?
Second.
Motion. Second. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Approved?
Thank you.
Is there any other old business to bring forward? Yeah, before we get into new business, because I'd just like to, Darren Benefield appropriate about, opportunities that we may have, because Carla's here. It's always easier for me to use the old name, Carla Goody. Even though she's been very involved with, especially courts that involve drug courts and veterans courts and so forth. So Darren, I don't know if you wanted to.
Thank you, Jim. I did, and I was informed this week via phone call from Judge Carla of an excellent opportunity that's actually come to Will County. Ron Velocity and the family guidance that we've been working with at the courts has an opportunity, and it looks like a very good opportunity to receive a $2.1 million grant over 5 years. And that grant, they'll apply for it, will be to partner with Vivitrol for our Will County courts and providing funding to support education, medical services, and assessment services for Will County. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Family Guidance, but they've done an excellent job with us at the courts regarding the Vivitrol program. And we think that, I feel that this ties in real close with our Public Health Committee. It ties in closely with our Legislative Committee. And I know that Judge Carla has asked to speak a bit this morning. I'd love to have her come up, let us know what this opportunity is and how we can move forward with this. And Judge Carla, is that fine, Jim? I'm assuming so. I guess the podium would be fine. Thank you for coming in, Judge Carla.
You know, when I swear in the jurors, I say my name is Carla Alessio-Policandriotes. And they have that same look y'all have too.
How long did it take you?
I know, right? I know.
I'm Greek and I can't say.
I think you wrote it down phonetically for me for at least 3 or 4 months. Right? I appreciate having the opportunity to be here. This past 3 days ago, based on my schedule, Ron was able to present to myself from Family Guidance an opportunity, as you indicated, to apply for a $2.1 million grant. And the history that we have with Family Guidance is one of the reasons why I'm here, to tell you that our relationship is good, they produce, and they have incredible results. This particular grant actually fits the void that we have in what we've been putting into place. As each of you may have a different familiarity, some people will qualify for any number of your problem-solving courts, but there's too many that can't. And what happens is this grant fits that vacancy or that void. Right now, a room that used to be occupied by Dr. Zoot outside the Public Defender's Office for pre-trial opportunities. Family Guidance has one of their representatives there in an office every day. So if one of the public defenders has a client that needs a drug and alcohol assessment, whether it be for DUI or felony matter, and they're already out on bond, the person is there immediately accessible, and it is free. I know you just heard that, right? But you didn't jump up and down as I did. It's absolutely free. The cost to assessments and referrals are very, very expensive. So you can imagine that opportunity to have that available right outside your lawyer's office. It's awesome. We also have in place, through our relationship with Family Guidance, in your Will County Adult Probation Office. They currently have an individual who sits there, and based on a referral through probation, your experts are recognizing issues that people need help. They're immediately requiring them to go to the representative from Family Guidance, get your assessment, let's find out what your needs are, which could also not just drug and alcohol issues, but also mental health issues. They have the resources to those as well, with the immediate referral or assistance. And you're going to jump up and down this time because it's for free. You have a system in place right now that I sign a court order for someone who's asking for help, and every Saturday at the Will County Adult Detention Facility, there are representatives, a number of them, medical staff and otherwise, all provided by Family Guidance. They are in the Will County Adult Detention Facility, originally 4 hours, but now 8, because there's so much need. And Sheriff Kelly gave me the additional time. They do the assessment, they give them the education, they make the reports, and if the person wants and is eligible medically and otherwise for Vivitrol, which is an application of medication once a month for opiate addiction, they receive that medication while they're clean, while they're in the jail, when they have the opportunity to have it. The discharge date thereafter is 10 days. Free. They leave the adult detention facility with the opportunity to go into intensive outpatient treatment and receive all that follow-up medication through Family Guidance at no cost to the participant. Those are great things, right? What's missing is this, and this is why we're here today, and this is what the point that this grant, now that Ron will speak on his own behalf. The grant is for post-disposition matters. So if someone can't be pretrial, they cannot be talking with their lawyer and saying how this case may end. The biggest component, that's the most important thing about this grant, is that it provides money for bricks and mortar. It provides money for housing. So instead of housing these individuals in your Will County Adult Detention Facility, post-disposition, meaning they receive a sentence of probation, they would leave custody of the Will County Sheriff, and if they're pre-screened to qualify, meaning like all the things that we do, no crimes of violence and things like this, they would then be able to go into a home that is a sober living environment, run like we already run your homes, Miller Taylor home and Julianne home. Right now we have 14 individuals in those 2 homes total. And outside of that, within our specialty courts, we have 20 individuals in the Oxford homes within your community. This grant allows us initially to have a little over $127,000 to purchase another home, completely managed by Family Guidance with their money. Any employees needed to staff and otherwise occupy would be Family Guidance employees. But none of these grants would be awarded without an agency such as the county of Will suggesting that we're behind them, we need it, and we have the resources to support it. And I tell you, all three of those, you already know. You have such successful problem-solving courts, and I think that's why Family Guidance is going to get this grant. We're going to give them all of our criteria of how we manage our own sober living homes. And with the history, Julie McCabe-Steer, I don't know if you know, back in 2011, presented to the National Conference of Drug Court based on an essay she wrote and explained about this house, this incredible house, that people who leave a jail, who have nothing, because they've been there for such a period of time, that their personal property is already on the curb, there is no more lease, they've lost public assistance, and families aren't able to assist. And we have a home for them that's clean and sober and managed. The first 2 weeks that they're there, they receive it for free to give a transitional period. And after that, there's an obligation then to pay a reasonable rent that allows them to search for work, earn an income, be clean and sober, and surrounded by people who are clean and sober, and get into an intensive outpatient program or outpatient program post leaving your jail. I'm here to ask you to look at this grant, figure out how somehow we can do everything we can by the end of the month, because that's when the application must be presented, to give Family Guidance any and all support that we can. One of the aspects of this grant is something I did not know yesterday when I was staffing for Veterans Court and also your ARI docket. I brought it to the attention of all of our case managers that there is a website that I directed all the case managers to, that it's called Bonds for Jobs. And our federal government now has an opportunity to have an individual or any employer ask them for a bond to hire someone who was discharged from the veterans form of the military other than honorable. They'll bond them up to $5,000 at no cost to the employer or to the individual asking for the personal bond. So when they go to an employer, whether it be not-for-profit, for-profit, or a government agency, that individual can hold onto this bond and say, trust me, I want this job, I can do this job. And if I fail, the federal government's going to bond me for $5,000. So if I take something I'm not entitled to, if I do something that I shouldn't, the federal government's telling me to take a chance on me, and we're going to start using that within our specialty courts as well. So, and I know that we made a phone call into workforce development. They were unfamiliar with the federal program, but they use the state program, which is insured through Fidelity, which might be a little bit more challenging to obtain. If you have any questions for me, I'm going to stand right over here, but the person who knows this potential grant inside and out is Ron Glassity, if I may.
Before we go on to the opportunities, before you get moved from the podium, I just want to say that I'm aware of all the courts, specialty courts. But I have to say I was unaware of the treatment that comes through the courts and the availability of treatment through the courts. So it was kind of nice to hear the nitty-gritty of what goes on outside of there's a drug court graduation.
Right, and I appreciate that. And for the last 2 years, Judge Shanksted has given me the privilege of being the presiding judge of the felony division. And with that, so you have your heart at a certain place, and it's always been specialty courts for me. So then you take over the being the presiding judge, and I knew what was missing. And so with the assistance of Family Guidance and other resources that we have, most cases now are being disposed of once we know what the issues are. And that means recidivism rates drop. It means that the occupancy of the jail should drop. one thing I was listening to the presentation here by the sheriff, is that this grant also allows us, through this grant, to have the Will County Sheriff reimburse for any and all transportation costs incurred to bring anyone to treatment. It also allows us to have the sheriff's office not only receive that money, but the sheriff's office to be reimbursed for the Saturday timeframes that they are paying for a correctional officer presence for that assessment purposes and things like that. We have our protocol in place, Jim, that makes this not only the right thing to do for our community, but also being not just now, but exponentially as it goes in the future. So I appreciate you recognizing that we're taking what we've learned, especially courts, and taking it to a different level.
Thanks for this.
Did you have any other questions for me?
Oh, I guess I didn't have a question for Carla as much as that. I understand that this is actually coming out of the 21st Century Cures Act, so, which is great. Have we had any discussion with our federal legislators?
Well, that's, I was going
Well, let's not get, let's get through the presentation.
Gotcha.
Then we can talk about what you need from us to perhaps be successful in getting the grant, so how we can help you. Okay, well,
So, do you want me to step
want
aside?
you to do you want to, yeah.
Thank you, Judge. Good morning. I'll only be a short time. Again, my name's Ron Glassing with Family Guidance Centers. I'll give you a quick overview of Family Guidance Centers. We're a non-for-profit behavioral health care company. We've been in existence since 1980. We have 7 facilities throughout the state of Illinois, one of which is strategically located in Joliet. We've been out in Joliet for about 5 years now. And when the judge talks about the services we provide are free, I want to explain that a little bit. We are licensed and funded by the state of Illinois and the federal government to do substance abuse treatment in communities. We have been afforded opportunities with the state and the federal government in as much as they have provided us over $20 million of funding last year to do substance abuse treatment in communities such as this one across the state of Illinois. So the services that we are providing to the residents in the court systems in the jail in Cook County are either being reimbursed by the federal government or the state government, which we have a contract to serve indigent individuals, people who can't afford treatment, people who are absolutely down in their luck and need some assistance in recovery. So I just wanted to explain that a little bit to you. The opportunity that was
Free to the client.
Free to the client.
free to the client, for sure.
Yes.
No question about it. And that's why I think we're seeing some success, because individuals can access services now they never could. So I wanted to spend a minute about this grant. I actually printed out a summary of the grant. It's only a 5-page summary. These are grants that Family Guidance Centers normally goes after in our course of business. To get those contracts from the government, sometimes you have to complete an application and submit what they call an RFP to a funding agency. When I saw this one, which we just saw a couple of weeks ago, and unfortunately it's due at the end of the month. When I saw this one, I met with the state of Illinois, our funding agency, and we together discussed the possibility of making sure Will County could be included in this grant with the fine work that the judge does over in the drug courts, in the court system, in the jail system, and our relationship. The state of Illinois thought this was a great mix and a great opportunity, because the grant asks the provider of services to have relationships and collaborative agreements with local governments, specifically the judicial system, the jail system, and the county governments, which they describe as a local government. So obviously this is a match made in heaven. This is something that is very attractive to us, and I'm hoping it's very attractive to you as well. Because we're on such a short time frame, let me back up. This grant has something different in it that no other grant has had in the past that we've been had an opportunity to bid on. And it pays for 30% of the grant money pays for housing. And you rarely see that in federal and state grants today.
with regard to substance abuse, which that doesn't make a lot of sense, but the federal government has the Department of Housing, and there's different governmental bodies that take care of housing. But I think the federal government in this situation found that there is definitely a relationship between recovery of substance abuse and housing. So the 30%, so the grant is $425,000 a year for 5 years, and 30% of that can be used for housing. So we don't have enough time between now and the end of the month when we have to submit the application to identify properties and begin negotiations with landlords in terms of purchasing and so on and so forth. What we're looking for right now, which is required in the application, is collaboration letters and documents of collaboration from local governments that they will work with us to provide housing if in fact we did get this grant. So we don't have to get into a lot of details of how that's going to look, who's going to own the building, who's going to pay for it. Family guidance centers obviously would be paying for the operation of any facility based on this grant. But I don't think we have enough time to supply all the details to the application. So I think today what I'm specifically asking for, and I actually do have a template of a collaboration letter that the Will County Board collaborate with family guidance centers in going after this grant, specifically related to housing. I'll entertain questions.
So, before we get into actual questions, does everyone understand what the request is? Because I'd like to kind of maybe get that out of the way first, unless you want to go through questions first. Mary, it's not an agenda item, so can I move this over to the...
You would have to save a space on county board agenda and take action on it.
So I'll be saving a space to do a collaboration letter.
To vote on it, yes.
With family guidance now.
Right.
And in the meantime, that gives us time to talk to them. So, would someone like to make that motion?
Make a motion.
Second.
Space.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Now, this was to place it on the county board agenda, which we make certain. Are there any additional questions? You know, all I would say is, here we go, from an awareness standpoint, like you folks are out there, you know, none of us here talk too much about our own personal lives, but let me say this, that we're all touched by addiction. My family's no exception, and it's a tough deal when you have no resources. I can't imagine what it's like when you don't have any resources. So to have somebody, an organization like Family Guidance and working with the courts, and, working with law enforcement, working with local governments, working with the state and federal governments, for those people who don't have the resources, I think is really a worthwhile endeavor. So I'm glad, and I was unaware of it, so it's not connected. No, you're there. So I think that this is really something that's worth pursuing.
Just thinking that, given the other efforts that are going on in the county, it would be helpful if Dr. Berg would be involved with you in terms of putting that together.
What, to get the letter, Shanice?
I should tell you that Ron and I work closely together.
They're in the same world already, I think, right?
Yeah,
so there's collaboration between.
Right.
Yeah, and over the next couple of weeks, as we have a grant writer who writes this grant, we will definitely be reaching out to Kathleen as part of this. No question about it. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much.
Okay, I have a summary of the grant, and then I have a template of that collaborative letter. If I could just pass that out, and I don't know how many copies I got there, about 10 or so.
I'll give it to staff, and they'll distribute it.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Okay, I know I took a little additional time, you're probably going to count on, but I'll see if I can make it up for you. Under new business, because we have an intergovernmental agreement with this City of Joliet on our agenda, and since I believe they're here, there they are. I'm going to jump right up to the #1 spot here. Take you from 17 to 1. Okay? This way they can get out their day too. So, Nick, you're handling that? You want to?
Good morning. Just a brief summary. This has been talked about for many, many years. It's a good day, hopefully, if we approve this today. But we have an agreement that's been hammered out, all the details. This has come most recently through Capital Committee. Just a quick summary for everybody. There's a few moving parts. This is the Chicago Street right-of-way, the 121 Chicago Street building, and this is for the city, and the parking behind the police station in exchange for a complete courthouse parking. We have part of that lot. Joliet has a lot. They're transferring that to us. They're rebuilding the lot, and they're granting us the property around the new courthouse site. That's high level. The two outstanding issues that we've talked most recently about were the number that was going into the demo of 121. The county is paying them a not to exceed amount to demo that, and we're going to pay them after the fact. And then there was an issue with some of the street lighting, which we've around the new courthouse, and working with county board staff, state's attorney, and city of Joliet, we have hammered out a deal that we believe is ready to go. So that's high level. Mary can address any legal issues if there's any questions.
The only other thing I would say, and I'll entertain questions or where you want to comment. You know, Mary, this is all the state's attorney's review.
And we have been reviewing it. Just this morning, we were talking with representatives from the city of Joliet about some concerns, but I think that we are in agreement, so we will get that final language, and it should be ready to go
for this
next
kind of
week.
board meeting? Okay. All right. Ray, did you want to?
Yeah, I just wanted to add a couple of things. First of all, I wanted to say thank you to the new administrator over there in Joliet. It's been a pleasure to work with, and Marty Shanahan sitting over there as well. Working together, I know Reagan and Nick and Mary have put a tremendous amount of work into it. I had asked for a spot to be saved because one of the reasons why is Tuesday, they are going to be expecting to take action. And as it sits right now, both sides are pretty much in agreement, and they're expected to take action on Tuesday, and we should be able to take action on our Thursday board meeting. But I think moving forward, this is a pretty big step in the right direction with the collaborative efforts working together. And I'm pretty excited about our future working together with Joliet and what this is going to do for not only them, but for the county as well. So I definitely want to thank, Reagan, Nick, Mary, for their hard work with the Joliet officials as well. Thank you.
So we'll be placing this on the agenda when we do everything. I don't know if there's any comments from the folks in Joliet. Dave, you want to make any comments? I mean, outside of how great we are.
Just to say, I'm David Hales, the new city manager. It's been great to work with the infrastructure committee, and I thank Marty, who spent the last couple of years working with Nick and others on this agreement. So we're in full support. We see it as a great first step, as an ongoing, even enhanced collaboration, cooperation between the city of Joliet and the Will County. So thank you very much, and look forward to getting this agreement executed and implemented.
Me too. It's been a long time coming. Thanks for your comment. Okay. Next, we have under new business authorizing amendment to the retiree health insurance trust agreement.
Second.
Yeah, move second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Declaring vehicle surplus and authorizing disposal.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Declaring sheriff sees vehicle surplus and move. Second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Renewing contract for electronic recycling. Permanent drop and bulkhead. Move. Second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Renewing contract for electronic recycling. Turnkey.
Second.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Authorizing IGA with the Village of Romeoville for access to the countywide radio system. Second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Authorizing IGA with the Village of Rockdale for access to the countywide radio system. Move. Second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Authorizing IGA with the Village of Frankfurt for access access countywide. Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Authorizing IGA to go to forward that access to the countywide radio.
Second.
Move second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Authorizing IGA with the Joliet Junior College for access to the radio.
Second.
Move second, all in favor?
Aye.
Authorizing IGA with Creek Township for the mobility management project. Move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Authorizing IGA with the Franklin Township for the mobility management project. Move. Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Authorizing IGA with Bonnie Township for mobility. Move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed. Authorizing IGA with Peatone for mobility management.
Move.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Authorizing IGA with the Washington Township for mobility management.
Move. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Authorizing IGA with the Will Township for mobility management. Move. Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, actually a replacement, oh, we did? Okay, authorizing IGA with Joliet for the land swap. Move. Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Replacement, hire pre-posting to the land use department.
Second.
Before we get into this pre-posting, you have to ask, is it a replacement hire? And is it a budgeted, is it already budgeted?
Good morning. I have Brian here with me as well. He can provide the details. I just kind of queued up to him. This is in addition to two existing development analyst positions. I guess technically it could be considered a new position, but to put it in context, we had more similar positions 8 years ago before the recession. And Brian can kind of explain a little bit more detail about.
Yeah, before we get into need, I assume, I think there's just an assumption, if you didn't feel there was a need, you wouldn't be asking. And we don't necessarily ask you for the justification for the position, but I think, we'd like to know if it's new, so it's not a replacement hire. This is recreating a new position, and whether it's in the budget. And the reason I'm saying that is because that this is a budget change. It's not an existing position. Therefore, I'm assuming it's not been funded for in the budget, because we don't leave unfilled positions in the budget. So. So I think if the committee has a different kind of view, I'm going to let you also say why you think it's crucial you have this position. But in effect, when we're doing it, we're indicating that we're going to give you an additional appropriation, in my opinion. And I don't know how willing this committee, and myself, I don't know if I'm willing to give an additional appropriation. Doesn't mean you can't have a hire, but understand, you will hit no additional dollars within the budget. So, and we've done that too with folks. So, we're going to allow a position, but we're not going to give you any additional appropriation. So, I just kind of want to make that clear. Where I think the intent of all this is. So, go ahead and make your justification, but I just, want you to kind of lay that groundwork for us. Okay?
Before Brian speaks, I just wanted to just make you recall it was the November 7th Finance Committee meeting that the department did bring to the attention of the committee that there were 3 positions, and this is one of them, that the department felt necessary for operations that were in the proposed recommended budget for FY18. Again, that were not included in the final appropriated amounts. So I just want to be clear with the committee that is the case.
And let me just say this, even if it's approved, there'll be no additional appropriation in any case. You know, if you make any adjustments, it's at the end of the year. And of course, we generally take that out of your current budget. We transfer one money from one line item to another. And it's the following year where the appropriation probably comes more into play, which would be the 2019. But I'm just saying that for the benefit of the committee. Mike, I see you moving the hand there, so.
You did say at our last meeting, Jim, that based on us losing two individuals, it's probably a good time for the executive to look at the reorganization maybe of land use, so there could be dollars there if it's.
There may be money available. Regardless, though, I want the committee to understand that, you know, if we go to pre-posting, you approve the position. I don't think it has an impact on this year's budget, because we usually, you know, we would never fund it up front, technically, so we haven't done that in years and years, but understanding if we create a shortfall, we have to consider getting an additional appropriation. It has more to do with 2018, and of course, there could be some reorganization that we might suggest within, as far as management goes. So right now, I think, because you're going to be okay on that. So, Nick, I'm going to recognize you, but I don't want to get into that bigger picture thing.
Well, this is a pre-posting,
Yeah.
which is the positions, usually when we bring these pre-postings, they're budgeted positions. This, like a couple other departments, there is a bigger issue to discuss, but I can say this, if this gives anybody any comfort. Based on the last meeting, comments by you, Mr. Lustis, and the need, because the director's retiring, we lost another senior staff person, we have been strategizing about reorganization, as we have over a number of years, and I think we're assuming a little this because this wasn't specifically spelled out by the board, but I think the inference is there. We've been reducing staff for years. We've increased salaries for certain staff, but that's because they're taking on much more responsibility and higher skilled staff, I would argue, over the many years, and their productivity is going up. So I think hopefully most board members agree. Less dollars overall, maybe better paid staff, but more productivity. And I think it's been noted by several board members when these come up before, is they responsibly and collectively, we all reduced staff when the economy went down. And now there is a need for some of these positions as the economy comes back up to be efficient in our processing of plans, permits, inspections, what have you. But we can give that presentation we'd like to in the near term about what it's going to look like. And it may not be exactly what was suggested last time, but it achieves some of the same goals, I think. So.
Again, you know, I will acknowledge that of all the departments in the entire county, I think that the land use department has continually reassessed the organization and shifted things. I don't disagree with anything you said there. So I would agree with it. So I think this is more just about an understanding of it. It's not a budget position at this time. I think there's probably will be funds available in the year's budget to fund it. So we could just go on. Somebody want to make a motion on this? So moved. Second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, go ahead.
Clarifying point.
Yeah.
David needs me.
Just also at the last November Senate Finance Committee, there were two other positions that has gone to advisory committee that will be coming forward with in February with requests for pre-authorization for posting. And that would be for a full-time building inspector as well as a part-time combination inspector.
You know what I would like to say is, and Nick, I'm going to look to you a little bit, the executive's office, who has oversight of the land use department. we do know there's gonna be some changes, and we do know that there's gonna be some overall reorganization. Not that I'm looking to hold off on any, but it would be nice if some of those discussions could take place, get some of the thoughts of the executive's office, maybe heard your thoughts before you leave, on how we could further reorganize the department. And like I say, we're not going to commit to any at this point, since you're telling us you're going to probably in the future be making requests, but and I'd say, okay, you can make the request, but it would be helpful if we had another picture of what we think how they might look going forward. You know, so even when I said we did such a great job, Kurt, and how things got reorganized, and I said, well, maybe we don't need to replace you. I didn't mean that we don't need a director necessarily. I'm just saying that maybe we can do it with the current bodies that we have now. That type of thing. And it always has to be somebody that's right. We have to have somebody to blame. Right? You just gotta shake his head, yeah.
Whatever you say.
Okay, so understood, but understand that we'll probably be having some discussions, right, Nick?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, okay.
Thank you.
We had a motion, right? Okay, so now we got replacement hire pre-posted for the Department of Transportation. They want to move on it? You want information? They have a bunch of people. I will say that they have a number of people that are, these are either open positions, that are leaving, retirements. I mean, if there's anything more you want to say.
Unfortunately, we had 2 deaths in the department,
Yeah,
and there were other retirements at the end of the year, so these are needed positions.
These are
in their budget.
Well, especially this time of year, so, you know, Don, I don't know if they always run this by your committee, but.
They don't.
Okay.
It goes to you.
Maybe we should, it always helps to mention the committee too, so anyway. So, move?
Yep.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Pre-posting for county executive maintenance department. Have a motion? Move, second. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Replacement hire for the county executive. I don't know exactly what this one is. What is this one? Nick? Nick, you know what it is?
I believe.
Oh, this is a replacement hire, this is a maintenance worker. It's another, the other one was a pre-posting for some.
Oh, this is the hiring of maintenance worker.
Yes, of a different.
Replacement hire, okay, okay.
Yes.
With a motion second, all in favor? Aye. Yeah, before we go on to, even though it's not on the agenda, but I am gonna ask that in a motion to place it on the county board agenda, and that is posting for the replacement of Karen's vote in the county board office. So if I can have a motion in effect. Second, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Okay, thank you. Next we have proclamations, Chuck, Herb, any comments on the proclamation?
I really hadn't even seen them yet, so I
I put a sheet on your.
oh, right here underneath.
So I just wanted to move forward. We got a motion?
Second.
Second, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, motion carries. You got the appointments by the county executive.
Motion.
So I want to ask one thing on the appointment, and that is the appointment to Metro. Is that included in this?
No.
No? Okay, that's what I'm sure. As we continue to, maybe have a search, so, okay, appointments to the boards and commissions? Move.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. One Oak, are we still on One Oak, Mary? Continuing saga of One Oak, right?
we finally got their changes back yesterday late. Phil Mock was looking at them this morning. So I am going to ask that you put it on the county board agenda. I am hopeful I will not have to ask for it to be removed again.
Okay, well, if you do,
But,
it's okay.
okay.
We want it right, so we want to make a motion to place One Oak on the county board agenda. Move.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
The text.
We also, we'll do that. Well, because, well, let me say this, there's an abatement that I'd like to place on the agenda. I need to be placed on the executive committee agenda. So can I have a what's, the abatement is to Silvestri paving. Want any details?
I can get you the details.
You're requesting that be placed on the agenda?
I mean, came in after the last economic development ad hoc committee, but I believe our existing policy is just, it comes to the executive's office, we give a letter, which I don't know that you've received. If we haven't done it, you didn't get that, okay, good.
And the problem is, just due to illness and stuff, we're just not having time to get
So we're gonna cover
the
executive board.
economic development, so just go straight to the executive committee with this one.
So then...
we're supportive of, that's why we give the letter, so.
So why don't we, unless people want to go through all the details, you can always ask questions, you got a week, you get any details, you will get the details. And we have a pretty, we have a guideline we pretty much follow, so.
10 or 5 agent.
And then we'll
Yeah, and John Gruling and the group brought the information to me for the economic development. It's a pretty straightforward, the business, it's only about $1,900 in tax abatements, and there's only one school district that's involved, there's no other government bodies that are involved with this. And they should actually be passing this 2 or 3 days before it comes to us for the county board. So it should be pretty straightforward.
I just had one question on it, Jim. Is this a business that's moving from outside the
No, I
county?
believe they're an existing, certainly Silvestri paving has been around for a while. I think this is an existing location, some expansion of workforce,
Chris, do you want to talk about the pavement? Are you more familiar?
Darren, I'd be glad to get you some of that information, because I have that in their packet.
You'll have all the information before the county board. At the county board meeting, you'll all move forward, you'll have something. So all I need. Yes.
They apparently have a small Will County presence, but they're moving a larger portion of their operation to Will County, so.
Okay.
So we can, if there's questions between now.
There was a couple different
I
sites.
thought that was what it said, and I knew that they were going to expand their base here in Will County, including some additional employees at this location.
And again, we're not talking about a lot, yeah.
No, it's not. So I just need a motion to place it on the executive committee agenda.
Get a second.
For the county board,
Second.
A motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries. Okay, we'll get to the committee reports. Anything on land use, Tom? Any questions for Tom? Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
Finance, Mike, is there any questions for Mike? Okay, we'll move on. Public Works, Don, any questions for Mr. Gould? Okay, judicial, Don, you already had your name.
That's fine.
Any questions for Sarah? Public health and safety, Judy, you have anything?
Do I have anything?
Just routine. Any questions for Judy? Okay, we'll move on. Thank you. Legislative policy. There's nothing on the agenda. Capital improvement.
Yeah, we need to say 2 spots.
Okay.
One's for authorizing county executive to execute amendment to current professional service agreement with White.
Okay.
Completion of the master plan, and also authorizing county executive to execute agreement with White for the design services necessary for the new animal control facility.
Okay, so I'm going to make a motion to place both those items on the agenda. Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Anything else on the calendar? Executive committee, any questions for me? Anything on executive? Okay. Any public comments today? Any comments by committee members? I have no comments. I'll entertain a motion to approve agenda as amended.
Move. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Can I motion to adjourn?
Oh.
Move. Second. All in favor? Good. Thank you.